The regulars might have something else to tell you, but I don't.
What's your name?
Grosvenor McCaffrey.
Mind if I ask you some questions, Mr. McCaffrey?
I'm just a starving writer, Detective. What do you want to ask about?
Evelyn Summers, and why she was found beaten and strangled in the rail depot on Santa Fe.
Okay. I see your point.
How well did you know her?
I can't say that I knew her. It was more like I was aware of her.
Did you see Evelyn last night?
No, I was at home, writing.
Do you want to get dragged into this, McCaffrey? Do you want us to get interested in you?
She hung out with this powder puff, James Tiernan. They haunted the public library together.
How well do you know James Tiernan?
I know he works some kind of plebeian job at Rawlings Bowling Alley.
Rawlings? I know that place. Corner of 9th and Grand. A lot of cops bowl there on Tuesday nights.
Do you have a criminal record, Mr. McCaffrey?
Nothing serious. I've had a few skirmishes.
But nothing reprehensible.
No. The odd parking ticket. That kind of thing.
Thank you for the information, Mr. McCaffrey. You a friend of Evelyn Summers?
Who's asking?
Very cute. You know who's asking.
I know my rights.
You don't have any. Answer the question.
Evelyn mooches for drinks. I don't have any time for that.
Was that so hard?
Keep writing me, copper.
Officer needs help, 103 and V.
You're free to speak to the regulars. Just don't shake them too hard.
You know the way. You can drive.
Fine. Where are we headed?
What did you make of McCaffrey?
There'll come a day, and it's coming very soon. We'll run him and the rest of his pinko buddies out of Los Angeles.
I meant as a suspect, Rusty.
What can I do for you?
LAPD, Phelps and Galloway. We're making inquiries into the murder of Evelyn Summers.
Evelyn? She's dead?
You knew Evelyn Summers, Mr.?
Robbins. Yes, I knew Evelyn. I was a good friend of her ex-husband. She kept some of her stuff here.
Can you show us, please?
Sure. Come this way.
You got some fine stock here, Mr. Robbins. You know, you let us take some for the road, this case might get solved a lot quicker.
He's joking, Mr. Robbins.
She kept a bed here, but I probably shouldn't have let her. An alcoholic in a liquor store. That was never going to work out, was it?
We'll take a look around. She wasn't always such a loner. Evelyn was reading Aristotle?
Evelyn wasn't stupid. The only stupid thing about her was her need to drink.
And she was borrowing books from Grosvenor McCaffrey. We're trying to account for Evelyn's movements yesterday.
She came by in the morning.
A social visit? To pick up some of her things?
She had a couple of bucks and bought a quart of rye.
She was murdered late last night, and still extremely drunk. You expect me to believe that she bought a quart here in the morning and it lasted her and her friends a whole day?
You have some way of proving that I'm lying about when she came in here?
Looks like I was mistaken. Any idea where the money came from?
She didn't mention it, but she did say the booze was a present for a boy. She said they had been fighting and she had to make it up to him.
Were you and Evelyn close, Mr. Robbins?
Not many people will be sad she's gone. I'll be one of the few.
We got the impression that Evelyn had been sleeping rough of late.
It became difficult for me to have her staying here. Her mother was trying to get her back on the straight and narrow. She's old now. And to be honest, you have to have a good reason to want to get back on.
Do you know a friend of Evelyn's by the name of McCaffrey?
Not personally.
We're struggling for leads, Robbins. Did she know McCaffrey?
She idolized him. From what I gather, the feeling was far from mutual. He seems to peddle a revolutionary stance, fixing the ills of society. You could see how it would appeal to down-and-outs like Evelyn.
Thanks for your help, Mr. Robbins.
No problem. Hey, I'd like to make arrangements for the funeral. You think I could get in touch with Evelyn's mother?
Put in a call to the watch commander at Central Station, Mr. Robbins. He'll be trying to reach the next of kin.
Thanks. Get the guy, huh? Evelyn never hurt anybody.
You can drive.
And where exactly are we going?
Car 11K, car 11K, come in. Car 11K, car 11K, KGPL.
Yeah, I'm thinking of moving up to a 45. I want to put it down.
The captain is downstairs with Ray Pinker and Carruthers.
The cop they've been talking about on the radio? Want another accommodation?
What's this about, Captain?
Ray and Mal have some concerns over the Henry and Muller cases, which I don't want aired outside of this room.
The evidence is solid, Captain.
I agree, Rusty. It's just that corpses keep piling up.
Copycats.
I've been banging the same drum. But the notes and the lipstick messages.
Evelyn Summers, Cartel Classic Carmine. Each woman, same brand, same color.
Teresa Terrelson didn't have a lipstick message.
Technically, you're right, Rusty. She didn't have any lipstick. But she did have a message. We found it beneath her dress, scraped with a sharp stick.
What did it say?
You sure you want to know?
Ray?
As far as we can be sure, it said cunt BD.
That's one way of... At it.
Looking at what?
Cunt is all about access, fellas. You're married, so yours is mortgaged. Some of us like to pay by installments. This guy doesn't like to pay at all.
Why are you so angry, Mal?
Because I just had to fire one of my assistants. He was a friend of Jameson's. God knows what he might have been up to.
Captain, we have good leads in the Summers case, but it's up to you to decide how we proceed.
Keep this under your hat for now. And to follow up on Evelyn Summers, I want daily reports.
The thing was, he was a really nice guy.
We got our orders. Back to the Summers case. Get an address for McCaffrey. He'll have blown the bar. I'll meet you outside.
Can you drive to this one?
Fine. Where are we headed?
Let me pose a question.
Depends. What you got to do with?
Morals. Would it bother you to put the wrong person away?
Depends.
On what?
On whether anyone except the poor son of a bitch in the slammer ever found out.
Hello, Rusty. Two on your usual lane?
I'm Detective Phelps. Homicide.
You must be new. What's your shoe size?
This is business, Florence. You got a guy who works here by the name of Tiernan?
Sure we do. He's a pin setter. clears the jams, works the gutters. Go right in. He'll be hopping around the lanes toward the back. He's a nice boy.
Thanks, ma'am. Let's go get him.
Would you recommend?
Tiernan! LAPD! There!
What are you waiting for? Get after him!
We might go faster if we weren't carrying the extra weight. These are flashy cars to be parked outside a bowling alley.
The lanes attract a fast-living individual with money to burn, Cole.
Or a middle-aged individual with the need to feel virile.
I'll try to shoot out his tires. Wish me luck. Hit him, Cole. Spin him out.
Another runner. Or at least we've got a suspect.
Why do they always run? I'm sure we've got the wrong person in more than one of these homicides, but they always seem to lam it.
You know, your theories are not airtight by any means.
Don't go to sleep on me. Get me back in close.
That is the end of that. About fucking time.
Put your hands in the air! Phelps, badge 1247.
How can I help, Detective?
I need an address for a Grosvenor McCaffrey.
Grosvenor McCaffrey. Apartment 6, 126 Yale Street, between Ord and Alpine.
Thank you. You're behind the wheel.
And where exactly are we going?
Continue to respond.
Doesn't look like anybody's home.
Not everything here is going to be relevant. Not sure this means much. Don't think this is anything.
Torn from the letter we found beside the body. At the very least, I'd say it ties McCaffrey to the scene.
Not much help.
He said he was at home. He said he didn't know her. And we have the book.
Let's see Carruthers argue his way out of this one.
Is that you, Grosvenor? Who are you guys? What are you doing in here?
We're from the LAPD, ma'am. Do you know where we might find McCaffrey?
I'm his neighbor. Is he in trouble?
Look, lady, we need to find him, and in a hurry. Are you going to give me trouble?
He has a pigeon coop up on the roof. He spends his mornings up there when he's been drinking.
How do we get up there?
Down the hall and up the stairs.
Drunk and in command of a carrier pigeon. Surely we can write him up for that. A citation, at least.
Talk to Grosvenor. I've got housework to do.
That's the cop from the newspapers. Going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than staying in the garage makes you a car.
Grosvenor McCaffrey! Running on a hangover, McCaffrey? Sit down and we'll talk.
I'll go get our wheels.
You a runner, McCaffrey? Stay and fight the good fight. Give it up, LAPD!
There he is, officer! Be careful, he looks dangerous!
Can't we talk about this? Can't we talk about...
We need to get downtown and wrap this thing up. It's got to be McCaffrey. Unless Tierney set him up. You don't think that asshole Jameson did that, do you? Yeah, whoever did it. This wasn't that Dahlia fight.
How do you know that McCaffrey didn't do the Dahlia?
We have a list of over 200 suspects. His name was never on it.
If you think the list is exhaustive, Rusty, who am I to argue?
Listen, let's just work the case at hand, shall we? And then we can sit down and put all the puzzle pieces together in the end.
I'll hold you to that.
You sure you can make it stick with one of these suspects, gentlemen?
It's either McCaffrey or Tiernan, sir. I think Jameson is an aberration.
All right. I'll deal with that degraded lunatic myself. He's got some fearful retribution coming. Tiernan isn't one, McCaffrey isn't two. I want a confession from one of them. Don't fail me, young fellas.
Why did you run, Tiernan?
I was the last one to see Evelyn that night. I knew you would think it was me.
Can you describe your relationship with Evelyn?
I barely knew Evelyn.
Sounds like half an answer to me, Tiernan. Were you sleeping with her?
That's none of your business.
Aristotle's Metaphysics, the book that belonged to McCaffrey.
McCaffrey saw her looking at her once and laughed in her face.
And you're saying Evelyn stole it?
She wanted something of his.
You don't like McCaffrey, do you, Tiernan?
He's full of the common man routine, but he props up a bar like the rest of us. Evelyn
Why did you run, Tiernan?
I was the last one to see Evelyn that night. I knew you would think it was me.
Can you describe your relationship with Evelyn?
I barely knew Evelyn.
Keep lying to me and I'll have you charged and in front of a grand jury before your feet touch the ground.
How can you possibly prove Evelyn and I were more than friends? How come this is so hard to believe? A man and a woman getting along, liking each other just as friends.
Aristotle's Metaphysics, the book that belonged to McCaffrey.
McCaffrey saw her looking at her once and laughed in her face.
And you're saying Evelyn stole it?
She wanted something of his.
We either hang this on you or McCaffrey. You better give us something.
Well, McCaffrey's been in trouble with the law before. I mean, he always makes out it was some kind of labor dispute. But, you know, I'm not so sure.
You and Evelyn were drinking together last night, and she had no other place to stay.
I don't know what happened last night. I don't remember.
If you don't give me some reason to think differently about this, Tiernan, I'm gonna have to go to the DA.
I drank half a bottle of scotch. I don't remember a goddamn thing.
Do you own a car, Tiernan?
No, I don't.
Have access to a lug wrench?
Well, we use a lot of them to clear jams in the pin setting machines.
Evelyn was beaten to death with a lug wrench. We found a wrench at McCaffrey's apartment.
You see? It was McCaffrey. He had nothing but hatred for me and Evelyn.
Evelyn was missing a ring from her right hand.
That's strange. She always wore it. Big black circular disc with a white E in the middle. It was made from an old typewriter key, a present from the prop department at her old movie studio.
We're going to talk to McCaffrey. You need to think about what you've told us, Tiernan.
Put him down with my sap.
Why did you run, Tiernan?
I was the last one to see Evelyn that night. I knew you would think it was me.
Can you describe your relationship with Evelyn?
I barely knew Evelyn.
She was old enough to be your mother, Tiernan. Were you banging her?
That's none of your business.
You a mama's boy, Tiernan?
Aristotle's Metaphysics, the book that belonged to McCaffrey.
McCaffrey saw her looking at it once and laughed in her face.
And you're saying Evelyn stole it?
She wanted something of his.
We either hang this on you or McCaffrey. You better give us something.
Well, McCaffrey's been in trouble with the law before. I mean, he always makes out it was some kind of labor dispute. But, you know, I'm not so sure.
You and Evelyn were drinking together last night, and she had no other place to stay.
I don't know what happened last night. I don't remember.
Come on, Tiernan. Either you killed her or she left the hotel. Why did she leave?
Look, I may have yelled at her. I was very drunk. I mean, it's hard to remember.
Do you own a car, Tiernan?
No, I don't.
Have access to a lug wrench?
Well, we use a lot of them to clear jams in the pin setting machines.
Coroner's report says that Evelyn was killed with a wrench. I think you did it and then planted the evidence at McCaffrey's apartment for us to find.
We went to his apartment. McCaffrey was up on the roof. Evelyn stole the book. McCaffrey went crazy when he found out. He said he would put her out of her misery. He can be very cruel.
Evelyn was missing a ring from her right hand.
That's strange. She always wore it. A big black circular disc with a white E in the middle. It was made from an old typewriter key, a present from the prop department at her old movie studio.
We're going to talk to McCaffrey. You need to think about what you've told us, Tiernan. You're not in the clear.
You think those
You ready
vice
to answer
boys
some
get any on the
questions?
side?
You think I have all the answers?
People who run from the police usually have something to hide.
Touché, detective. Let's see where this takes us.
You told us you barely knew Evelyn Summers.
She hung around sometimes. I had very little to do with her.
You'll have to do better than that, Grosvenor. We know about you and Evelyn.
Evelyn was a lush, and a boring one at that. You can't link her to me. Seems there's a serious gulf between what you think you know and what you actually do, detective.
Evelyn died sometime around midnight. Remind me, where were you?
I was at home, writing. I'm working on a manuscript.
You're lying, McCaffrey. You were out at the rail yard.
And what do you have that proves I was there? You're going to have to do better than that, detective.
We found the lug wrench that Evelyn was battered with in your apartment, and the note from her mother, and your blood-stained clothing. We have you cold, McCaffrey.
You think if I could be bothered to murder Evelyn Summers, I would be stupid enough to leave the evidence in my apartment?
I don't believe you, Grosvenor. The evidence says that you killed her.
You can prove that I wanted to kill Evelyn?
Tiernan is prepared to testify that you threatened Evelyn's life in his presence.
Self-preservation. It's understandable. Okay, I'll level with you. Tiernan killed Evelyn. He came to me for help. I listened to him, and he explained why he did it.
Tiernan went to you for help. You expect me to buy that?
That's how it went down. I told him he made a terrible mistake, but he would be throwing his life away if he went to the cops. I took his things and told him I would dispose of them.
But you didn't.
Speak to Tiernan. He'll give it up.
It's either going to be you or Tiernan, Grosvenor.
Make it stick, detective. The party has good lawyers.
You spoken to McCaffrey? I can go, it's all been cleared up?
Not quite. We have one more question we need to ask, James. Then I think we will be done.
Sure. Go ahead.
So Evelyn passed out, and you walked out. What happened next?
I woke up in the morning, very hungover. I thought Evelyn would have come back.
I know you're lying, James. You went out looking for her. Tell me what really happened.
I don't know what you're talking about. How can you say I wasn't in that hotel room?
You wound up at McCaffrey's. You were still incredibly drunk. You passed out on his floor. It's time to tell me what really happened.
McCaffrey woke me up the next morning, and he showed me the lug wrench and the letter and the box, and he said I came in with him last night. He said that I killed Evelyn, and that it was all over the radio, and that he would protect me. And I don't know, detective, for the life of me, I can't remember a goddamn thing. And I was angry with her. Really angry. I could have done it. It wasn't me.
James Tiernan, I'm charging you with the murder of Evelyn Summers. I believe you didn't know what you were doing. I'll speak to the DA on your behalf. That's the best I can do for you now.
I'm going to assume that you both have very good excuses for what happened in my station today. You had a perfectly good candidate for a capital case, and somehow managed to choose a weak-willed sub-sister, while the murderous Red walks scot-free. I'm having doubts about what you're prepared to do to make a case, Phelps. If ever there was a time for manufacturing evidence, or extracting a confession, this was it! Now get out of my sight! Run down pickpockets and fruit flies, and leave the real work for men of substance.
We have lost most of Shaughnessy and Dunn's squad. The gunny is dead. First platoon is in worse shape. That medic is either crazy or the bravest man alive.
Then we rally with the first and try for the Namboos.
It's sheer to the left. To the right, it goes right through a pass with 2 Namboos and Enfilade. Mate, we can lose everyone.
Lieutenant, get back off this fucking bridge. They'll start walking the mortars back to their own positions. We only have minutes. I'm in charge here, Sergeant. Get your men off the bridge, Lieutenant. What's your unit, Sergeant? We don't have time for this, Lieutenant. What's your unit, Sergeant? I company 22nd Marines, Lieutenant, and we just saved your ass by fording the river. My orders are to reconnoiter the I think that point is now moot. You have 10 men left. My orders are to save what's left. Move out!